1981. Early into the decade, and things were moving fast.
Okay, units, travel plans. I need to be in New York on Monday, LA on Tuesday, New York on Wednesday, LA on Thursday, New York on Friday. Got it? Got it.
Well, maybe not that fast. Just a year into the budding 80s, 1981 would see a slew of new heroes.
So I'm sure to get most of the vitamins I need.
Iconic catchphrases.
Pardon me, would you have any Grey Poupon?
And some of our most important cultural discoveries.
What'd you say this was again?
Today, we're chronicling 1981 from January to December and talking about the news, culture, sports, and entertainment and all that was weird in the year. This is Timeline. Today, it's all 1981. But before we get going, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel and let us know in the comments below your favorite 80s memory. Now, are you ready to get on to 81?
That's fattening.
This is 1981. On January 12th, Dynasty premiered, and America was introduced to the Carringtons, a filthy rich family from Denver, Colorado.
Good evening, Mrs. Carrington. And how has your day been?
Dynasty was created to counter another show about filthy rich people, with the wildly successful Dallas on CBS. Flash forward to December 4th. CBS would counter ABC's Counter with Lorenzo Lamas and the show Falcon Crest, a show about filthy rich people, but this time they're in Napa Valley.
Chase is of the opinion that vineyard is his to keep.
You know you ought to let me handle this.
On January 16th, while claiming he was walking out of a Detroit bar, ex-heavyweight champion Leon Spinks was jumped and cold-cocked by robbers.
Police say Spinks reported his assailants left him naked.
When Leon regained his senses, he found out the muggers had stolen not only $45,000 of jewelry, but also his gold teeth. We're not sure if they got the fillings as well. Sticking with boxing, 3 days later on January 19th, the greatest of all time might apply to Muhammad Ali's non-boxing life, when on January 19th, the ex-heavyweight champ literally talked a man off the ledge. It was in Los Angeles when a despondent man threatened to jump off a high-rise building. Ali drove down to the building and talked to the man, telling him, "You're my brother. I love you, and I couldn't lie to you." Soon after, Ali put his arm around the man and guided him back inside. We'll see Ali again by the end of the year. On January 20th, Iran released 52 Americans who had been held hostage for 444 days, just minutes after the presidency had been passed from Jimmy Carter to Ronald Reagan. The hostages were placed on a plane in Tehran as Reagan delivered his inaugural address.
Some of the hostages are physically and mentally tired. 2 of them are said to be having difficulty walking.
With gull-wing doors and a stainless steel body, the DeLorean was probably the most 80s car ever.
The DeLorean. Gull-wing doors rise effortlessly, beckoning you inside.
The car would be forever etched in our pop culture hearts when Dr. Emmett Brown transformed the DeLorean into a time machine, when Back to the Future premiered on July 3rd, 1985.
88 miles per hour!
February proved that life is indeed a stage, as the Canadian power rock trio Rush released Moving Pictures on the 12th. After this, air drumming would never be the same. As the SNL cast took the main stage for their goodnights on February 21st, Charlene Tilton asked Charlie Rocket how he felt being shot. It was a callback to an earlier Dallas skit during the show, where Rocket played the recently assassinated J.R. Ewing.
I'll get that Charlie Rocket if it's the last thing I ever do.
Rocket told Tilton,
"Oh man, it's the first time I've ever been shot in my life. I'd like to know who did it."
Whoops. Rocket was fired before the season finale. On March 30th, in an attempt to impress actress Jodie Foster, John F. Hinckley attempted to assassinate Ronald Reagan. Reagan was shot in the left lung, with the bullet just missing his heart. In the melee, Hinckley also shot a Secret Service agent as well as Press Secretary James Brady, who was hit in the head and critically wounded. James Brady's injury would eventually turn into law.
12 years ago, my life was changed forever by a disturbed young man with a gun.
On November 30th of 1993, President Bill Clinton signed the Brady Bill into law.
Don't tell me this bill will not make a difference. That is not true.
On April 13th, the Washington Post's Janet Cook was awarded the Pulitzer Prize for a feature she wrote titled Jimmy's World. It was the harrowing profile of the life of little Jimmy, an 8-year-old heroin addict. She described the needle marks freckling the baby-smooth skin of his thin brown arms. Shocking, yes. It would have been if it was true. 2 days after the prize had been awarded, the Post admitted they were duped. Cook resigned and returned her Pulitzer. AAA baseball teams, the Pawtucket Red Sox and the Rochester Red Wings, played the longest game in professional baseball history. The pitching duel went 33 innings and lasted 8 hours and 25 minutes. Over 32 innings were played. By 4 a.m., the players were delirious from exhaustion. With 19 fans left in the bleachers at 4:07 a.m., the game was stopped. The 33rd and final inning was played several months later. Pawtucket won the game 3-2 on June 23, 1981. On April 24th, the Center for Disease Control records that Ken Horn, resident of San Francisco, had Kaposi sarcoma. Later in 1981, the CDC would go back and correct Horn's medical records, retroactively identifying him as the first patient of the AIDS epidemic in the U.S. On May 1st, Billie Jean King didn't so much come out of the closet as she was kicked out by the woman she had a 10-year romantic relationship with while she was married to a man. King, already a world-class tennis champion with 5 Wimbledon titles under her belt when on May 2nd, Marilyn Barnett filed a palimony lawsuit for lifetime support.
But I would never out somebody. Oh my God, that's just horrible.
On May 1st, American Airlines was the first.
We're American Airlines, doing what we do best.
When they launched American Airlines Advantage, the first frequent flyer loyalty program. Money can't buy life were Bob Marley's last words to his son Ziggy. Marley passed from skin cancer. The melanoma had spread from under his toe, a symptom of already existing cancer, not by an injury during a football match as the incorrect reports first stated. Marley was only 36 years old when he passed. Flash forward to 3 years later on May 8th of 1984, when Bob Marley's Legend would be released, which would end up in just about every college student's music collection ever. On May 13th in St. Peter's Square in Vatican City, Mehmet Ali Agca attempted to assassinate Pope John Paul II. The Pope was struck 4 times, suffering severe blood loss. Agca was immediately apprehended. Willing to turn the other cheek, the Pope visited Agca in the prison cell he was to spend the rest of his life. They spoke privately for some time, and the Pope said they became friends. The Pope later requested Agca's pardon in 2000, which Italian officials granted.
He said this week that he'd applied for Polish citizenship, but had been turned down.
Originally written in 1974 for Rod Stewart, Betty Davis Eyes by Kim Carnes would hit #1 on May 16th and stay on the charts for the next 9 weeks.
You'll find McRib in the middle is swimming in sauce. It's McRib.
Very few fast food culinary creations have quite the lore around them as the McRib. A creation of both an animal scientist and a fine dining chef, the McRib is the fast food white whale, appearing seemingly at random and disappearing just as quickly. The McRib would go on to be on and off McDonald's menu for years, first vanishing in 1985.
We're only here for a limited time.
But returning in 1994.
This May, it's McDonald's McRib sandwich.
Then doing farewell tours in 2005.
It's McRib time.
2006.
McRib is back.
And 2007.
It's back.
The McRib. It's hard to be sad about something that's gone when it's never really left. A daredevil by the name of Daniel Goodwin climbed the Sears Tower in Chicago, all while wearing a Spider-Man costume on May 25th. Goodwin was able to climb the 1,454-foot, 110-story building, not from being bitten by a radioactive spider, but by using suction cups and hooks. After he triumphantly reached the summit of Sears, Goodwin was greeted with handcuffs. Spider-Man was charged with misconduct, criminal trespass, and criminal damage to property.
Dan Goodwin has captured the imagination of the public as well as Sears.
The month of June featured a mix of famous media moments.
Sometimes I feel I'm scared to live.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
You cannot be serious! That ball was on the line! Chalk flew up!
The Solar Challenger succeeded in completing the 165-mile flight across the English Channel on July 7th. It was the world's first solar-powered airplane to do so. Oh, how sweet it is! Because on the same day, artificial sweetener, or aspartame, was approved by the FDA. 2 days later, on July 9th, the barrel-throwing gorilla, Donkey Kong, made his debut appearance in arcades across America. Creator Shigeru Miyamoto was tasked with redesigning a game called Radar Scope, based on the love triangle between Popeye, Olive Oyl, and Bluto. Nintendo couldn't get the rights to the characters, so the game was repositioned as a gorilla, a carpenter, and his girlfriend. Flash forward to 1982 when Donkey Kong Jr. debuted. The carpenter would be changed to a plumber, and his name was switched to Mr. Video, then Jumpman, and finally Mario. Extra fun fact, Mario was named after Mario Segale, the landlord of a Nintendo warehouse in the Seattle area.
Kurt Russell stars as Snake Plissken in John Carpenter's science fiction action classic, Escape from New York.
On July 17, 1981, two walkways collapsed at the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Kansas City, Missouri, one directly above the other. They crashed onto an event with approximately 1,000 guests, which was being held in the hotel's lobby, killing 114 people and injuring 216 others. The OG royal wedding on July 29th was between Lady Diana Spencer and Prince Charles, which was watched by a global TV audience estimated around 750 million people. This storybook franchise would last until August 28th, when Di and Charles's divorce settlement was finalized. Tragedy would strike almost a year to the day later when Di perished in an automobile accident in Paris in late August of 1997.
The Mercedes 600 carrying the princess, her Egyptian companion Dodi El-Fayed, emerged from the tunnel a complete crumpled wreck.
If any network defined the 80s, it was MTV.
This is it. Welcome to MTV Music Television.
On August 1st, they began their run. Back when they actually featured music videos, the network debuted the appropriately titled video, Video Killed the Radio Star.
Brooke Shields, Martin Hewitt, Endless Love.
On August 3rd, 1981, the Air Traffic Controllers Union declared a strike. Reagan declared their strike a peril to national safety and ordered them back to work.
If they do not report for work within 48 hours, they have forfeited their jobs and will be terminated.
Only 1,300 of the nearly 13,000 controllers returned. How did Reagan respond? 2 days later, on August 5th, Reagan fired the 11,345 striking air traffic controllers who had ignored the order and banned them from federal service for life. The great communicator indeed. Staying with Reagan, 1 day later on August 4th, 1981, Oliver North was assigned to the White House's National Security Council, where he served as a lobbyist, focusing his efforts on Central America. We may hear back from Oliver in the coming years. Foreshadowing. The IBM personal computer, commonly known as the IBM PC, was introduced on August 12, 1981.
IBM made its personal computer to help a person be more productive.
If your family owned one in the 80s, you were considered a neighborhood legend.
You know, who knows, it may be the world's biggest backyard fence to talk over before long.
The first woman to the highest court in the United States, Sandra Day O'Connor was nominated to the Supreme Court by President Reagan on August 19th.
The only significant opposition has come from abortion opponents.
The subject of abortion is a valid one, in my view, for legislative action, subject to any constitutional restraints or limitations.
Hanna-Barbera, who shaped America's animated lives with Yogi Bear, the Jetsons, and Hong Kong Phooey, struck blue gold with the introduction of Papa Smurf, Brainy, and Smurfette on September 12, 1981. La 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 la. Now try to get that out of your head.
I'll get you. I'll get all of you if it's the last thing I ever do.
Switching channels, 2 days later on September 14th.
What you are witnessing is real. The People's Court.
The Honorable Judge Joseph Wapner.
If you had the dog on a leash.
Rusty, his faithful bailiff.
I've seen it out of bull in court.
And mild-mannered announcer Doug Llewellyn.
Don't resort to taking the law into your own hands.
With a debut lineup for the long-running People's Court. Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher and rookie phenom Fernando Valenzuela threw his 8th shutout of the season, tying a 68-year-old record set in 1913 by Reb Russell of the Chicago White Sox. Recorded by Olivia Newton-John and released as a single on September 28th, Physical not only flew to #1 on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100, it stayed there for 10 weeks, an 80s record. Sticking with music, a relatively unknown multi-instrumentalist by the name of Prince was the opener for the Rolling Stones at the Coliseum in Los Angeles. The Sun-Baked Stones audience was rowdy, booing Prince off the stage, pelting him with bottles, fruit, coins, and food. Flash forward to June 25, 1984, when Purple Rain would debut. The album would go on to sell over 17 million copies throughout the 80s. On October 20th, the Weather Underground organization, commonly known as the Weather Underground, had 3 of its members arrested after the robbery of a Brinks armored car at the Nanuet Mall in Nanuet, New York. The trio stole $1.6 million in cash, killed a Brinks guard, 2 police officers, and wounded several bystanders. Although Lars Ulrich met James Hetfield 5 months earlier when he answered an ad the drummer placed in The Recycler, looking for other metal musicians to jam with, Metallica became a band on October 28, 1981. The band would play its first gig on March 14, 1982, at Radio City in Anaheim, California, a couple months later after they recruited Dave Mustaine as their lead guitarist. On November 16, 1981, soap opera General Hospital presented the marriage of Luke and Laura, which was watched by 30 million viewers and remains the highest-rated hour in American daytime soap opera history. We go to a yacht off the coast of Catalina Island, where on November 29th, actress Natalie Wood was on a yacht with her husband, actor Robert Wagner, her friend, actor Christopher Walken, and the yacht's captain when she mysteriously disappeared in the middle of the night. Wood's body was found a mile away the next morning, and her death was ruled an accidental drowning, despite a litany of suspicious facts and contradictory accounts from her 3 companions.
Now, we've said from the beginning that we don't think she was knocked unconscious when she went in the water.
The LA County coroner ruled Natalie Wood's death
that it was an accidental drowning.
However, when the case was reopened in 2011, the new report could not conclude whether or not Wood's injuries were accidental.
Wagner and Walken have always maintained they don't know what happened.
Her cause of death was changed from accidental drowning to undetermined. More true crime. After spending nearly 5 months on the run, adult film star John Holmes was arrested in Florida on December 4, 1981, for his involvement in the June 29th home invasion, armed robbery, and murder of a small gang of big-time drug dealers, which would become known as the Wonderland Murders. It was on December 11th Muhammad Ali's days as a boxer ended with a loss to Trevor Berbick. It was estimated that the champ, who was already showing signs of Parkinson's in 1981, had absorbed 200,000 hits during his career.
Unanimous decision for Trevor Berbick.
As far as Trevor Berbick goes, we'll see his part in the boxing record books later, but that's for another year. We're going to 1982 next, where a future sports icon would get his first shot on the biggest stage. A weatherman from Indiana would change late-night TV, and America would start dancing to zombies. Until then, this has been Weird History's Timeline.
Got a deal, good. I'm putting you down to deal with Dick. Dick, what's the deal with the deal? Are we dealing? We're dealing. David's a deal with Dondorf and Dick.
So what do you think? What was your favorite memory of 1981? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're at it, check out some of these other only about the 1980s videos from our Weird History.